Okay, I know you probably looked at that title and thought to yourself, ugh, not another negative K-pop video, but I promise y'all, this video will not be nearly as negative as you think it will be. So let's get that out of the way up front. My channel will never be one that's unnecessarily mean-spirited and petty towards any idol or group that I discuss. I do, however, believe in constructive criticism, and unfortunately, some people seem to be incapable of delivering constructive criticism without demeaning the idols. On the flip side, there are also some people who seem to think that all idols are these flawless, godly creatures who can never do anything wrong. And what we all need to understand as a fandom is that no one on this planet is perfect. Not you, not I, and certainly not them. So when I hear fans attempt to defend their favorite groups against antis in ways that make no sense, it comes off a little delusional. For instance, stating that any idol from any group is great at everything is questionable. Believe it or not, all-rounder idols are not as ubiquitous as some fans seem to think. Every other day, you hear someone claiming that their favorite idol is an ace or an all-rounder, when half of the time those claims probably aren't even true. With that in mind, let me state the main point of this video so that we can really get to the meat of the topic. Now, I'm going to need you guys to listen to me, and please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say next, but it's okay if your favorite group or idols aren't the best at every single thing. You can admit that to yourself, and I promise you, the world will not end. Every idol isn't an all-rounder. I have no idea why some fans hate hearing that, but it's true. There isn't a single group in K-pop that I personally believe is perfect at every single thing, from singing to dancing to rapping and stage presence. Sure, there are some groups that come really close to achieving perfection, but there are none, in my opinion, that are the best at everything. Some groups excel at vocals, like Kiss Alive, Inmix, and Mamamoo. Other groups have excellent dancers like ITZY or G-Friend. Some groups have idols that have magnetic stage presence that work for their specific concept. And other groups are just naturally entertaining in variety content. Of course, you are free to debate me further on the topic and tell me that I'm a dumbass. But I personally have never come across a single group where every single member was outstanding at every single thing, because there are none. Now obviously, I can't speak on what boy groups have going on because I don't follow a lot of boy groups, so I don't have much of a leg to stand on there. But for girl groups, no group is perfect. Now when I say that, I'm not trying to invite that weird narrative that some people seem to have by stating, well, idols don't need to be able to do XYZ to be idols. Because that's also something that I can't get behind. In my opinion, an idol's sole job is to be able to do most things as proficiently as possible. No, every idol does not need to be able to flawlessly belt whistle notes like Mariah Carey, nor do they need to be able to dance like Rhythm Nation Janet Jackson. But at the very least, all idols should be able to carry a tune and stay on beat when they dance. Okay, I feel like I'm rambling at this point in the video, and I figured I would. Especially when I think about why I chose to make this video to begin with. Earlier this year, during SSERAFIM's Easy promotions, they got so much shit for one of their encore stages that Source eventually had to come out and say something, and even threaten to sue people. Looking back at it now, though you pretty much expect every popular group to get hate from somewhere, this was some seriously unhinged behavior on behalf of the antis. Now, I'm not saying that to mean that SSERAFIM's vocals didn't deserve to be discussed or critiqued, because they were definitely conversation worthy, and that's coming from someone who absolutely loves this group. Let me break down what I mean by that. SSERAFIM is one of my alt groups. I've stated this numerous times, so please know that I would never unfairly criticize them just for the sake of doing so. I love the members and I love their music, but I can't sit here with a straight face and tell you that they are the best singers in K-pop because they aren't. And I'm okay with that. I didn't get into this group because their vocals impressed me. That's why I listen to groups like Kiss Alive or Inmix, whose vocals absolutely floored me the first time I heard them. With SSERAFIM, I fell in love with the music itself. I like the way it sounds and I like the way it makes me feel, but not once while listening through their discography did I ever think to myself, wow, these chicks really have some crazy vocals. Because if we're being honest, SSERAFIM doesn't excel at vocals. It's not what made them stand out to me when I first watched Fearless. Now at this point you might be wondering, why would she insult a group that she claims is one of her faves? Well, firstly, saying something that isn't 100% positive isn't always an insult. Stating out loud, this idol from this group that I love so much could use a little more practice to improve their singing, is completely different than saying, Jesus Christ, she fucking sucks. Why is she in this group? They really need to kick her out. This group would be so much better without her. Hopefully you can spot the difference in how the criticism is delivered. Now, what I just said about SSERAFIM is a way of reminding people that you can admit when your faves aren't the greatest at something. You can admit that to yourself and still love the group. You also don't have to overcompensate with toxic positivity to keep others from critiquing them. And when I say the word critique, I don't mean those stupid troll comments that clearly have nothing constructive to add. These are usually the kind of people who only seem to camp out in comment sections of encore stage videos of groups that they don't even like, just so they can irritate people and make shady comments. Those are the people that you should ignore because they are bringing nothing beneficial to the table. So when I say critique, I'm referring to actual well-meaning criticism that aims to respectfully highlight where an idol or group could improve. With every group that I alt, I can easily point out one weakness that each one has, and in the same vein, I can easily tell you why those weaknesses don't prevent me from loving the group. i-dle is another one of my favorite groups. I followed them since debut, day one. Now they are talented in many areas, but I don't love every single song that they put out. I'm willing to bet that it's statistically impossible to love every single song that any artist has put out, especially as their discography continues to grow and change with each passing year. No matter how much you may love a group, there's no way you love every single thing that they do. Now, one weakness that I can point out in i-dle is that they aren't the strongest dancers in the industry, especially when you compare them to other groups currently in their generation and the generation afterwards. But that's okay. i-dle excels in other areas. They have great songwriters and producers. I don't necessarily need them to be able to keep up with a group like i-dle in the dancing department because that's not what drew me to them. Now let's talk about the opposite end of this topic. What I said about SSERAFIM and i-dle just now, I could probably say the same things about other groups that I currently follow. I can also point out all of their weaknesses and strengths but still be a fan. On the flip side, I can also point out the strengths of groups that I don't follow. For instance, Baby Monster is a group who I currently have no interest in. It's nothing personal against any of the members, I'm just not feeling most of their music at the moment. But I also know damn well that I would be lying through my teeth if I sat here and said that the members are not talented. They have a very strong rap line and an even stronger vocal line. I remember mentioning that in my initial critique of their debut, Batter Up, even though I wasn't a huge fan of that song. For many of them being so young, they have more talent in them as rookies than some older and more experienced idols do. Forever is a solid release and it's currently the only song by them that I genuinely like. And I really wish that it had been their debut. In saying this, though I'm currently not a fan, I can easily acknowledge their strengths, especially in the vocal department, in comparison to my favorite groups. I have no ill will towards anyone in the group and wish them well in whatever they do next. Unfortunately, it seems that some fans have a hard time not only admitting when their faves are not the best at something, but also in admitting when there is a group that is objectively better than their faves in certain areas. Why is that, I wonder? Well, I can't say for certain why this is since I don't know every single K-pop fan on the planet, but I would like to speculate a little. Let's briefly take a look at this odd phenomenon because it isn't something that only exists within the K-pop community. Fandoms across all mediums tend to get super protective to a toxic extent over a property or a product that they personally attach themselves to. It happens most notoriously within the anime, gaming, and television/movie community, but K-pop is not that far behind any of those communities. For some reason, many fans attach so much of their self-worth to these properties that they see them as a reflection of themselves. So naturally, when someone who isn't a fan of that property comes along to criticize it, defense mechanisms kick in and they suddenly feel the need to protect this precious property, almost as if they are defending themselves from a personal attack. I'm very familiar with this feeling. I'm sure all of us are. I know how it feels to love something and to have someone random come along and tell you why those things that you love so much might actually suck. Now, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret about myself. I used to be so embarrassed by this, but it's been years now, so who the hell cares now? Alright, here it goes. I was once a Twilight fan back in the day, y'all, so trust me when I say that I'm very familiar with this feeling. If you weren't around or familiar with Twilight during its heyday, then you have no idea how much shit Twilight fans got for liking those books back then. And yes, though there were some truly weird people within the fandom that took the fanaticism a little too far, as there are within every fandom, most of us just wanted to quietly like our escapism vampire romance fiction in peace and be left alone. Still, you couldn't go a single day without being made fun of by people who weren't fans. And though I was somewhat resentful towards those people back then, I have since come to realize that some of the criticism those books got was accurate. Twilight did romanticize an unhealthy relationship and marketed that toxic romance to impressionable teenage girls. I understand now why those books got so much hate, and I've come to agree with some of the criticism, but that doesn't suddenly make me hate the books. These days, when I even think about those books and movies, I almost feel a sense of nostalgic cringe. They were a childhood staple for me and something that I will always remember fondly. No one else's negative opinion of those books will ever invalidate my opinion of them. But that's only because I had to remind myself that their opinion is just their opinion, and I've never understood why people angrily lash out at someone for having a different opinion. I can understand if the opinion being spoken is harmful or spreading some kind of misinformation, but if it's just someone pretty much saying, "Hey, I don't like this thing that you like," then is it really worth you getting pissy over? If your response to that mild disagreement is to resort to name-calling and personal attacks, then you might lead someone to rightfully wondering if something might be wrong inside your head. But hey, who am I to dictate, right? If you're willing to die on that hill, then go for it. But I can almost guarantee that it's rarely ever worth getting on Twitter to argue with some random stranger about why your opinion is correct. Because 9 times out of 10, that person doesn't care. They've either already decided how they feel about the topic that you're debating, and you won't succeed in changing their opinion either way, or that person is choosing to humor you as a troll and trying to rage bait you. Bottom line, either learn how to ignore or learn how to agree to disagree. I promise you that it's much healthier for your mental health overall to remember that no opinion is an objective truth. That's literally what makes them opinions. So you don't have to go to war with someone who doesn't like your favorite K-pop group. Part of the human experience is encountering and discussing opposing opinions. Everyone isn't going to like what you like. As long as they're respectful in how they choose to present their opinion, then it's perfectly okay for you to respectfully disagree with them and vice versa. What we could all learn to do more of as fans of anything is how to detect which opinions are worth acknowledging and which ones were spoken by people with nothing insightful to add to the conversation. So my advice? Ignore the assholes and like what you like, but on the flip side, don't delude yourself into thinking that your opinion is universal truth. Anyway, I just thought I'd drop this video while the topic was still fresh in my mind because it tends to come up anytime I'm hanging out in an online fan space and some random argument breaks out. And though I'm usually at first amused by these interactions, they can very quickly become very mentally exhausting to read. So that's usually around the time when I choose to remove myself from the situation. Now, what I'm about to say next to end this video is probably the most cliched phrase you'll ever hear in your life, but there's no denying its truth. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your own good is to log off, go outside, and touch some grass. Thank you guys for watching.